Hello, America. Eddie Marcus here, spokesman and advocate of basic human rights for all people. I would like to take a moment and speak to you on the subject matter when God judged America. You know, in our past, we've often heard it said that America has been a great nation. In fact, we've said that it has been one of the greatest nations that ever exist. We've heard about other nations that were great, but they weren't great enough as America. We've heard that America had compassion. It was a compassionate nation of people who cared about others. We also heard that our respect for the God of the universe ranks by itself. No one cares about God the way Americans does. And that's what we have been taught. That's what's been said. But something happened in 2015. God used a man by the name of Donald J. Trump. I think he loves to have that J put in there. He has been described as one of the most evil individuals in America. To prove that America is not all of those great, wonderful things that has been said they are. In fact, we have heard these things said, but someone was coming on the scene to say, make America great again, which means America had been great and fallen, and now someone else was going to bring it back to its standards. So maybe that meant a change of what the standards represent. And in any event, in 2015, that challenge came. America got judged. Well, the most evil man, the most evil individual, at least one of, to come to America and say, I want to be your voice. And was allowed to come here because God wanted to prove to America that the things that you are saying about yourself are not true. America is not as perfect as we have been told. And the introduction of this evil man was to set aside any doubt that God wanted to remind America that it is still a nation of evil. It is still a nation that is against natives. It is still a nation that likes to cling on to enslavement of others. God wanted to remind the people of America of their evils and the evils of this nation that still exists. Several past presidential elections, a would-be candidate sought office, and his campaign promoted peace and prosperity and freedom, joy and happiness to every citizen. And yet these were totally rejected without any consideration. Yet when evil came on the scene, talking about violence, talking about lies and hatred and racism, talking about bigotry, this so-called holy nation could not get enough. They have not gotten enough. And until this very date, it is the most talked about social situation in America today. The exposition, my friends, is constant. America, a nation ready for the author of evil. And evil has a representative waiting, and they're in line, and the people love it. You see, America has been uncivilized, decivilized. But this is not about politics or racism or religion. It is about good and evil. Good requires basic human rights for every human on earth, which includes work, food, clothing, shelter, education, health care, and any of those things that might be essential. It also involves, from the perspective of good, is peace and prosperity and freedom and joy and happiness and your dreams being made real. That's the perspective of good. That's the perspective of God. But evil denies all of this for everyone and chooses it for the few or the many, but only for evil. The truth is, all Americans are guilty. The whites are guilty, the blacks are guilty, all of the politicians are guilty, all of the religious leaders are guilty, for they all work against God. Justice was not made with the natives being put off of this land. Justice was denied the enslavement. Justice left wanting, facing a proposal to repeat. So, 2015 to this date, the judgment goes on, and America is proving each day that it is more evil than we thought. Sure, we recognize the evil that exists, and we recognize the millions of people that accepted that evil, that brought that evil on. But that evil has not ceased. That evil is being perpetuated every day. And millions of those who were not sold into evil years past are growing into evil today because they have been convinced that evil is superior to goodness. And rather than stay on the side of goodness, they'd rather go for that which satisfies their needs, their wants, and their desires. And that's the persecution of others. That means power that you got, that you could take away the voices of other people. You can take away the decision making of women on their own body, about their own body situations. You're taking away the ability for people to come together and make decisions that would involve themselves. Rather, you want to tell people what to do. And this is what America is buying into. 2 years after the most evil man ever served the President of the United States is trying to get back in office. I'd like to add, though, if I was going to say anything that would lead to, advice to those of you who are concerned about advice, is this. Every individual on earth was made by God, just like the moon. Every individual on this earth was prepared for by God, just like the sun. And as the sun and the moon is going through the process for which it was designed, it is also designed that humankind, should go through the process as well. And that basically means that those basic human rights that you heard me speak about, that every individual have access. This is from the perspective of good. This is from the perspective of God. Every crook, in this country. Every liar, every hater, every racist, and every bigot is entitled to what I want, what you want. Peace, prosperity, freedom, joy, and happiness, dreams to come true. Never, and a career, never having to worry about food, clothing, shelter, education, health care, any of those things that are essential for survival. Every crook, every one of Donald Trump's supporters, those haters, those who are ready to burn this country down to the ground, are entitled to food, clothing, shelter, education, and health care, and all of those other benefits that I mentioned to you as a representation of how God is. Now, evil is not for that. Evil doesn't even want those who have served evil to get these benefits under another title. No, if you serve the devil wants you to get your benefits from doing devilish things and being evil. But the love of God says, even though you engaged in evilness, the truth of the matter is you knew not what you do. And as a creation of God, you are entitled to the same thing that I am. You are food, clothing, shelter, not having to suffer for anything. And that's because you're here, you're engaged in the process of making sure that everything that exists that is required to meet those needs are available. And if there's any other way that you might be entitled, that judgment does not come from we, the people. That judgment does not come from we, the individual. That judgment comes from God. From God. Until God says, don't feed them. Until God says, don't clothe them. Until God says, and when God says it, it's a miracle. You couldn't do anything about it anyway. So I'm saying to everybody that hears my voice, there's God, good, there's evil. That the one way to represent God is to be good. Not sometime, all the time. Evil is evil all the time. So that means stand up for what's right and don't bend or compromise for evil, not to the smallest iota. Let the light shine, even in the darkness. Thank you.